Your airlock isn't bubbling, so your beer must not be fermenting, right? Not necessarily. And that is a major beginner, we'll call it mistake. Used to happen to me. Still does, I'll be honest. If I come in 24 hours later and I'm not seeing the activity going on in the airlock, I'm like, oh geez, what's going on? But I don't panic anymore. So before you dump your beer, start adding more yeast, let me show you what you should check first. And I've got some notes here because I want to make sure I cover all this stuff for you, because it is a question that does get a lot of beginners hung up. Okay. What does the airlock actually do? The airlock is, in all essence, is just a pressure release valve. That's all it is. Okay. It releases the CO2 out, and it keeps oxygen, dirt, and contaminants and bugs from getting in. That's it. Okay. The airlock, when it's bubbling, is a symptom of fermentation, not necessarily proof of fermentation. Let's put it a different way. The airlock not bubbling is not proof that fermentation isn't happening. Okay. There are other things to look for. So we'll tell you, first of all, why the airlock. I'm going to run through some reasons why the airlock might not be bubbling. Okay. And we all love it. I mean, it's one of the best parts of homebrewing is this thing just bubbling away. Your fermenter might not be perfectly sealed. This one, I run into problems with this one every once in a while, because it has a gasket, kind of an O-ring in there. Sometimes it doesn't get seated correctly, and this thing does not seal correctly. Don't stress it if you're in the middle of fermentation. Don't stress it. There's many fermenters. The seal, what's happening then, the CO2 is just coming out of the lid instead of the airlock. Not a big deal. There's many fermenters out there that don't even use airlocks anymore. Even the old school ones, like the Coopers and the Mr. Beer, and the Mr. Beer just had a slit on it and let all the CO2 out. And what happens is CO2 does build up, and it creates a layer between your beer and the oxygen. Ideally, you want this to be sealed, no oxygen gets in. But if you've gone through everything else and you determine there must be a leak in your your lid, don't stress it, just let it go. I would start then measuring my gravity reading, because I would want to get it out of here sooner than if we got a full seal. If I got full seal, I'm comfortable leaving the beer in there for 3 weeks. So if I think there might be a leak, I might be going a little quicker. Okay. Fermentation already happened. Okay. So what you want to look for is there a krausen ring? Okay. That would indicate that fermentation happened. So what happens is sometimes I'll pitch my yeast and I'll be like, all right, can't wait to check in 24 hours, see what's going on, see all the action, all the exciting stuff, and there's no action going on. But there was a krausen ring. Okay. I missed it. It already happened. Some yeasts go quicker than others. Okay. Some yeast will take right off and be done. Some yeast take off at the same amount of time but go longer. Fermentation turns out the fermentation turns out just as well. It's just how different yeast behaves. And sometimes you can actually miss it and it's already done. Okay. Fermentation temperature. That's what you also want to look for. What temperature are you fermenting in? Now, most of us don't have fermentation chambers, or they're not difficult to make. But if you're just, in your closet, your basement, your whatever, different temperatures are going to affect how fermentation takes off. You want to really watch out for too hot. Okay, too hot's going to give you off flavors you don't want. I would prefer to go under my ideals, but 65 to 68. That's my spot that I like to have my beers fermenting on starting out. I prefer to go under that if going over it. But the key thing here is if you do ferment in a cooler area, what I'm getting at is it takes longer for the yeast to wake up and get going. So it could take a couple days. So maybe it hasn't happened yet. So it could have happened. You might have missed it. Perhaps it hasn't happened yet. Okay. What else and I already talked about some yeast behave differently. Some ferment aggressively, like Nottingham, man, that thing just takes off, and you got action going on. Here you can see it in the fermenter itself, bubbling and just having a blast. A lot of times you're gonna need a blow off tube because that thing's just wild and crazy. Others are much calmer. Take their time, and you don't see the activity. Okay, they both produce excellent beers, so don't judge your fermentation by how dramatic or aggressive the airlock is behaving. Okay, headspace is another thing. I rock a 30-liter Spidell most of the times, and I do 5 gallon batches. It's only about halfway full. So what happens is it takes longer for the pressure build and push the bubbles up to the airlock. So that could be taking place as well. Okay. Let me scroll. What else I want to tell you? So what you need to check instead. This is what experienced brewers actually look at. Okay. Now, like I said, I'll still kind of, if it's not bubbling, I'm like, So then I start looking at these things to see if there's clues. And cheers. It's time for a sip of the stout. It's a rainy day today. Halfway through this, so perfect time for a sippy boo. Okay. So what you want to check instead, krausen. So krausen is going to be like the thick foamy layer that rises up when fermentation happens, and that's going to drop back down, but it's going to leave a ring. It's called a krausen ring. You're going to see that. Okay. That's clear indication that fermentation has already started. Okay. And then I'll leave the obvious one. The second one I'll talk about is the yeast layer. Same idea. Yeast, after it's been fermenting for a while, is going to drop out of suspension and it's going to settle, and there's going to be a layer of yeast down on the bottom. Okay. Smell. You can have a good old smell of it. I wouldn't recommend opening this up. I'm not a big fan of opening up your fermenter. Early on is better than later on because, again, your CO2 is going to have built a layer of CO2. So odds are you're not going to oxidize it, as big a chance of oxidizing it. Still, I don't like doing it. But even just getting around it, you can smell like kind of like bread smell, fruit, sulfur, that type of smell. Okay. Or even just beer smell. You're going to notice it. That's also an indicator. What else was going to have? Time? Okay. Don't worry about that one. I've already covered. Some beers are going to take longer to get going. Others are going to take less. Depends on your conditions. Depends on your yeast. The big one is, of course, taking gravity readings. Okay. If you really want to know what's going on, grab your hydrometer. All right. You're going to take it. You're going to take a sample out of your spigot. Hopefully, you got a spigot. If not, you've got to get yourself a hose and a hand pump or siphon. Take a gravity reading from it. Wait a couple days. Take another gravity reading. If it has moved, fermentation's happened. If it hasn't, you got yourself a problem. Okay. So those are the ways. What can I tell you to close this thing up? Don't. I mean, if you're seeing the krausen ring, if you're seeing motion in here, if you're seeing a layer, I wouldn't even bother taking a hydrometer reading just to confirm, because it's obviously taking place. Okay. But you don't have to look at it just one thing. Gravity reading for sure is the telltale. Airlocks, they lie. Here's another thing. This is the big airlock. It does not bounce around like my smaller airlocks do. Okay. Obviously. So sometimes sometimes I'll see foam coming out, but this I cannot depend on to tell the tail what's going on like I can the smaller one. Okay. But on the other hand, the bigger ones also they don't get all gummed up as much, and I don't have to use as many blow off tubes. So I like the bigger one. Okay. And just keep this in mind. Airlock's just one clue of what's going on. The hydrometer is evidence. So that's it, guys. Don't sweat it. Don't panic if the airlock's not bubbling away. It's okay. We've all been there. And I would challenge any home brewer. I don't care how long they've been brewing. We all still think the same thing. If we're looking at it, we're like, what's going on? It crosses our mind. But as you get experience, you don't panic, and you say, okay, let's take a look at the evidence. That'll really help us decide what's going on. That's what I got, guys. Any questions, feel free to reach out. If you're new to brewing, be sure to pick up my Beginner Brewers Bootcamp. Link will be under this video. It's free. And if you're all grain or getting into all grain, I used to own a brew pub, and I give away my top 5 best-selling recipes from the brew pub itself. So you can pick that up. Link is under there as well. And be sure to subscribe. We give away home brewing tips, recipes, and all kinds of good stuff. And that's what I got, guys. Big Rob, well, yeah, he got one. He's going to get it in there.